Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. Nice to have two awesome guests today, Gilberto Hernandez and Sohail Zafar. Welcome to the show. Gilberto, Sohail, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, doing great.
Um,
Thank you for asking.
yes, so everyone must already know Gilberto Hernandez, my teammate, developer advocate for Snowflake, and Sohail, you are new to the show. Product manager at Snowflake, what else can you tell us about you?
Sure. Super happy to be here today and very excited to talk about Snowflake native apps. I'm actually a product manager in the native apps team. Prior to Snowflake, I was at Google leading the internal API platform team. Prior to that, at Microsoft in the Office team, and prior to that, at Amazon leading the TPM team for Amazon Prime.
Wow, so you got Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, and now Snowflake.
Yes, yes.
I love the progression. What are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, today I would love to provide a quick overview about Snowflake Native Apps. It's actually a new framework we have launched currently in public preview that enables our developers to create applications, publish it on the Snowflake marketplace, monetize them, and then our consumers can download those apps and realize business value from them.
The Snowflake Native App Framework. Uh, Before we get started, I have some side notes. We usually stream live. We are live right now on YouTube, and we usually also stream on LinkedIn. But somehow LinkedIn is, oh, I think it's
Yeah.
just got live. Let's see if it's working. I was worried that it was not working a minute ago, but I see a lot of friends are up. It's running. So let me say hello, everyone here. Hopefully, people can tell us where they are right now. Where are you, Gilberto, right now?
Yeah, I am in sunny Central Texas, Austin, Texas.
Sunny Central Texas. That sounds very hot.
It is.
And where are you, Sohail?
I am based out of Bellevue, Washington right now. It was sunny till like 3 days ago, but it has started to get cloudy again.
That's how Seattle works. Yes, I see this is working. Thank you, Eugenia Olavarre, for confirming it's working. Blanche, David, Naval, and David from San Diego, California. So we're ready to go. Side note, uh, and we are celebrating that Streamlit in Snowflake is now in public preview. I see I posted about this on Reddit yesterday. I see a lot of upvotes. You can find the documentation of how to run Streamlit in Snowflake. This is a preview feature. It's available on Amazon, AWS right now, and you can find the blog post here. Uh, Now we're going to talk about native apps today. So a question for Gilberto and Sohail. What's the difference between Streamlit in Snowflake and native apps?
Absolutely. I can actually take a crack at it. So, Streamlit in Snowflake allows you to leverage Python to build apps to visualize data that's in your currently in your Snowflake account and drive business value from it and insights. And then native apps actually takes it one step further, where you can not only take that Streamlit based user interface, also add business logic leveraging Snowflake primitives like stored procedures, functions, package all them nicely as an application package, publish it on the Snowflake marketplace. And your consumers, which are actually other Snowflake account holders, can download those apps and run it on their own accounts, on the data in their own accounts, and get insights from them. And it's sort of a win win situation where the consumers are driving business value from the app that you have created, running it on their own data without sharing your data back with you. And you, as a developer, get to monetize your app and make money out of it.
Mhm.
I love it. So with Streamlit in Snowflake, I can create apps that work inside the Snowflake, and I can share it with other people in my account. With native apps, I can go beyond and share my apps with other accounts.
Absolutely.
And do they need to be written with Streamlit, or can they be written with any other framework?
That's a
The
great
native apps.
question, Felipe. So right now, it's a combination of the user interface written in Streamlit and the business logic written in the primitives provided by Snowflake. However,
Mhm.
we also just announced the availability of Snowpark container services in private preview. And leveraging Snowpark container services, you can actually take your existing Angular or React-based user and UI, bring it into a container, and get that container and your business logic packaged nicely as a native app and run it at actually any Snowflake account.
That's wonderful. So we have Streamlit, and we have containers, and we have native apps. And today, Gilberto, you have a native apps demo that you are going to give us.
Yeah, exactly. I have a
Mhm.
couple of things that I wanted to share with you. The first, thank you, Felipe, is this blog post that was recently published this morning. And I try to come up with a catchy title: How a Fictional Ski Resort Helped Me Understand Snowflake Native Apps. And I cover three main things that I'll talk about later today. And then the second thing is a demo. So essentially, what Sohail just described, and thinking about how a provider creates this application and then a consumer can install it in their account. I'll go through a demo of doing all that, and so I'll paint the scenario for you as well, so you can kind of get an understanding of the app, the native app.
Excellent. So today we are going to talk about your blog post. You are going to give us the demo. Sohail also will give us the bigger framework. And what we love here is the live questions. So if LinkedIn is not working, you can go to YouTube. Jeremy just said, thanks goodness for YouTube because LinkedIn is broken for me. For other people, LinkedIn is working. Wherever you can find us right now, you can ask us questions.
Absolutely.
So who wants to go first? Gilberto, Sohail?
Yeah, I can start off really quickly by summarizing the blog post, if that's okay, and then Sohail, we can go a little bit more
Perfect.
into the Snowflake Native App framework. Yeah, so
How
there
a
are three main
fictional ski
things.
resort. Sorry, I just
Yeah,
love the title. How a fictional ski resort helped me understand Snowflake native apps.
exactly. Yeah, and
Published 2 hours
so
ago.
I mean, the reason the blog post is help me understand Snowflake native apps. I cover three main things that help me accelerate my building of native apps. And so the first two things are really conceptual. And so the first one of those things is understanding the dynamic between these two personas of app providers and app consumers. Because what I have come to understand and realize is that once you understand that scenario, the use case for a native app and how it works and how it's running, it just clicks in your mind much faster. The second thing is thinking of comparing the structure of a native app to other models for apps that you may be familiar with. So you might be familiar with the managed app deployment model where there's a front end and an API and a back end that you have to stand up manually and manage, right? It's totally different with Snowflake native apps. And so I cover how the front end is built, how the back end and the application logic works. And so that I think that comparison also is really helpful in building that mental model of how Snowflake native apps run. And then finally, and yeah, I noticed that you highlight this, and I gave a note on why exactly I mentioned that in the blog post. But the last thing that I'll mention is, those two things are very conceptual, and so the third thing is showing you with a practical example through a Snowflake Quick Start how a lot of these concepts that are described really come to life as you build a quick start. So you get to see the provider and the consumer dynamic in that story. You get to see the structure of the native app and how everything, all the components are built. And so I'm hoping that practical example solidifies all the conceptual things that I present in the blog post.
Excellent. I love the
Super
blog post available right now. And to talk about the structure and the goal, Sohail, you have some notes for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple of slides which I'll just walk the audience through to provide a quick overview of what native apps are. So starting from the beginning, hello everyone, my name is Sohail Zafar. Excuse me. I'm a senior product manager in Snowflake Native App team, and today I'll be providing a brief overview of the Snowflake Native App framework. Snowflake now enables 3 app models. you have managed apps hosted and run by the provider. Think of that as a software as a service model. You have connected apps that are built externally and they connect to your Snowflake account, and where you have like your UI and business logic running in a web app outside of Snowflake, and then it's actually leveraging our drivers to connect to Snowflake data. And then you have this new third model called native apps, where you package your app and run it inside a Snowflake account. Where so think of this model, and that in the previous two models, the data is going out of Snowflake into the app where it's getting manipulated and synced back. In this case, the data is actually staying put and the code is coming to the data. So ensuring that the data security and privacy are not compromised. So that's the whole thing, that native apps keep data local and promote trust. So now that you know the core app models, let's focus on how our native app framework uniquely enables this new localized approach.
Let's see.
So the native app framework simplifies building, distributing, and running native apps. Providers package app logic and user interface using the Snowflake Native App Framework. Apps are scanned and validated before publishing. Consumers discover apps in the marketplace. There's a streamlined installation with consumer workflows where consumers allow an app to access specific data in their Snowflake account. And other than that data, the app does not get access to any of the consumer's data, which is not consented by the consumer. And so that's how we ensure that the consumer data is not compromised. We also build IP protection features into the platform so that a provider's intellectual property is also not compromised as they give that app to consumer. So the consumer is also not able to see the business logic that the provider has created to actually drive that business value for you.
So I can create an app. I can create an app and I can share that app with all Snowflake customers through the marketplace.
Absolutely.
Even for free. But they cannot see my source code if I don't want to share it with them.
Yes, 100%. And not only you can do it for free, but you can actually also leverage multiple ways to monetize your app. You can actually go with a subscription-based model, or actually you can even add custom billing models where you're charging based on the number of rows processed or some other thing.
That's beautiful.
As I said, this allows new possibilities while keeping data protected. So now we have seen how Snowflake's native app framework simplifies and secures the entire pipeline. Let's dive deeper, because for app providers, it's a game changer. No more wasted time managing infrastructure or worrying about security. The Snowflake marketplace will get your apps out there in front of customers. And when customers use your app in their account, it takes away all their data privacy worries. Talk about easy sales. And then for consumers, getting new apps is a headache right now. But there's months of security reviews and red tapes, especially if you try to sell your app and you have to go through their security office CISO reviews. But Snowflake native apps are totally different. No lengthy procurement with native apps. Find what you need in the marketplace, test run it in your account, and go from zero to realizing business value in no time. In short, Snowflake native apps mean you skip the hassle, but not the value. You get streamlined procurement, airtight security, and quick access to new innovation. With that, now let me quickly walk you through what it takes to get a native app from idea to users as a provider. First, you develop the app logic and package it up. You leverage stored procedures, you leverage user-defined functions and other goodness provided by Snowflake. You build your user interface leveraging Streamlit. As I said earlier, with Snowpark Container Services, you can actually build extremely cool-looking user interfaces leveraging Angular or React. After doing that, you actually test locally. And after that, you create an initial version. The version goes through an automated security scan to check for abuse and other security issues. And we do that to ensure that your intellectual property as a provider and the consumer's data and privacy are not compromised. After that security scan, super majority of apps pass no problem. A small few may need a quick manual review if anything looks funky. Once the app package passes scanning, you attach it to a listing and hit publish, and voila. This listing gets once over to verify the publisher that it is you who has to ensure that folks are not creating malicious apps or pretending to be a legit publisher. So once that happens, everything looks kosher. The actually app gets published on the marketplace. And like as I said earlier, depending on how you monetize you plan to monetize your app, or you want to distribute it for free and use it as an on-ramp for your actual service, your customers have multiple options to pay for your app. And then last but not the least, here are some of the providers and the use cases that the common use cases that native apps are available today in the Snowflake marketplace. For example, LiveRamp is building Snowflake native identity resolution products. My Data Outlet and CyberSyn are providing Snowflake native data models and provide data curation and enrichment services. And then we are actually also betting big on this platform. We have our own native app connectors for ServiceNow, Google Analytics, Postgres, and MySQL. All these connectors are built on top of the native apps framework. And with that, let me finish it. That in summary, let's recap what we learned about Snowflake's new hotness, the native apps. To build them, you'll need the native app framework. It's got all the tools you need to create and publish these apps. For the app interface, you can use Streamlit to whip up some nice visuals quickly. Test away locally or in your Snowflake accounts before listing. Compared to native connected apps keep data put in the consumer account way more trustworthy. Consumers foot the usage bills too, so providers don't pay for run costs. Of course, nothing is perfect yet. Streamlit UI options are still limited compared to React and such. So connected apps may work better short term if you need advanced interfaces. Right now, it's in public preview on AWS with Azure and GCP coming soon. But looking ahead, we expect native apps plus Snowflake containers to really simplify cloud app development, build your whole stack in Snowflake. So in summary, native apps are opening up new possibilities despite some early stage limitations, but really excited about all the capabilities on the horizon and what we can do to help our customers.
Beautiful. Can we go back to the slide with the workflow?
Sure.
Because we have, the workflow looks very straightforward, but we have like 10 minutes left, 11 minutes. Gilberto, do you think you can run through this in 11 minutes?
Challenge accepted. I will be moving a little quicker than usual, but I think I can do it.
Let's do it. And we will be waiting for people's live questions too. So where is your screen, Gilberto?
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, actually, before I share, I want to motivate this
Cool.
with some context. So I'm going back to the advice for the blog post where I'm talking about how it's really important to understand the scenario. Let's go ahead and do that now so that the rest of the demo can make sense for you. In this demo, I'm going to be playing the part of a chairlift manufacturer. And so I make these really cool chairlifts that are installed at ski resorts. Sohail is going to play the role of a customer, a ski resort owner who has recently placed a really large order for my chairlifts. And the reason that Sohail picked my chairlifts over others is because my chairlifts come equipped with this sensor on each chairlift that can ingest data, collect data about all sorts of different aspects of the chairlift. And the reason this is important is because Sohail is ingesting this data into his Snowflake account, and he wants to make sense of it. And so he recently reached out to me and he said, hey, do you have something that could help me make sense of this data? And I said, yes, challenge accepted. I have this native app that you can install on your account and get some insights from all this raw sensor data that you have been ingesting. So with that, that's super important to understand first. Now let's go ahead and get into it. And I'm going to be flying through this. So here is...
Let's fly.
I hope folks can see this. Yes, I have VS Code open. This is the source code right now for the native app that I'm going to be creating in a bit. This is a repo called SF Guide Native Apps Chairlift, which is available today on Snowflake Labs. So if you want to go there and check it out, check out all the details, you can definitely do that. It's also linked to in the blog post, so you can do that. You can reference it from there as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's start diving into building this app. So the first thing that I will go through are the three main components that, as the app provider, I need to make sure I package up. And so number one, the UI. So Sohail was mentioning earlier how the UI is built using Streamlit. And so I have three files here that start with v underscore. They represent different tabs, basically different pages within the Streamlit app for different portions of the application. They contain some logic. As you can see, I'm using Streamlit. I'm not going to go into the full details of it, but please check out the repo where you can see all the code. The second really important thing that you should know as an app provider is that you have to include a manifest file as part of your application. And so the manifest file includes all sorts of metadata around the application. So the version of the application, any artifacts that the application is going to refer to, and a couple of really important things that the application is going to need when you run the application in your consumer account, any privileges that the application may need, and then references to any tables that the application may need access to. So here I have a few entries. Three of these are tables. One of these is actually a warehouse. I won't spend too much time on this. You'll see what it looks like shortly in the app. And the last, but certainly not least, really important file to look at is this setup SQL file. And so here, it's a lot of SQL that's describing different experiences of the application. So you can see here how I'm creating two different types of users in my app. One's going to be an app admin because Sohail wants elevated access in his app versus an app viewer. I'm making sure that the application has the correct references to the UI that we built out that I showed earlier with the Streamlit, with these files on the right. And see a lot of logic here that, again, I'm not going to go through, but just making sure that the application is able to function as intended when it's installed in the consumer account. Check out the details in the repo. But with this overview, let's go ahead and start building it. So I have the source code here. I'm going to go over to Snowsite. First thing I'm going to do as a provider is I have to create the app package. So I go to apps. Sorry, I would go to apps on the left here. Then I would go ahead and add an app package. Just load.
Ba-da-ba-ba-bum. Ba-da-ba-ba-bum. Yeah, demo
Shouldn't
time.
have canceled out of that. It was working just fine.
There
Okay,
we are.
apps. Once I click on apps, I'm going to see the section called packages. I'll go ahead and add an app package. I'm going to name it Chair. If I could type correctly, Chairlift package. I want to distribute to this native app to accounts outside of my organization. So I'm going to hit this distribution option and I'll hit add. The next thing that I need to start doing is creating the first version of this application. So I can do this here in the UI, but note that I'm already running into an error. And the reason that I'm running into this error is because I've said, hey, I want to create this first version of the app, but I haven't yet supplied the source code within Snowflake. And so these files that I was mentioning earlier, basically everything that's within this source directory, it needs to make it into Snowflake. And so let's go ahead and do that. And the way that you would do that is after I've created my Chairlift package, you can go and see that I now have an object within my account called Chairlift package. This represents the application package. I need to do two things. I first need to create a schema. I'm going to call it code. This is where I'm going to upload my source code. And then within that schema, I will create a stage. I'm going to create a stage called source. I'll leave all the other fields as is. I'll go ahead and create that. I will select this warehouse so I can see the files that I'm uploading. And now I will start uploading my source code. So I need to upload everything that's in the source directory. Let's go ahead and do that. The first thing that I'll do is, so I'm in the source directory. I'll do the setup SQL, the README, and the manifest file. I'll go ahead and upload that. And the second thing that I'll do is I will upload all of the files needed for the UI. So you see more than 3 files, right? And those files have more information, references, common components used across the UI. Check out the repo for all the details, but I'm just going to make sure that I upload everything here. If I were to hit upload now, this would crash and it would not work properly. The reason for that is I need to make sure that this directory structure is reflected within this stage. So really simple fix. I want all these files to go inside of a folder called UI. I'll then hit upload. And there we are.
Right.
So all the source code for the native app is up. The next thing that I do is I need to go back to my application package because I had said I wanted to create the first version of it and I was getting an error. But now you can see there's no error here. And so now we can actually go ahead and start creating that first version. I want everything in this schema to be, in this stage to be used as the source code. My version name, I'm just going to call it develop. I'll hit add. All right, I have 3 minutes to see if we can do this. And you'll see that the first version has been created. An automatic security scan has already been initiated because I said I wanted to distribute this native app to accounts outside of my own. And so you can always keep track of that security scan here. But now what we need to do is a few things to make sure that the consumer is able to actually install the app in their account. Now, typically, if this were on the marketplace, the consumer would just go to the marketplace, select it, install it, and run it there. But I'm going to execute a few scripts really quickly that are going to be able to allow us to do that directly from a worksheet. And this is mostly for the purposes of the demo because we're having the provider and the consumer participate within one Snowflake account just for demonstration purposes. The first thing is granting reference usage on proprietary data that I, as a provider, want to share with Sohail through the application. And so I won't go into the details on this, but I'm essentially creating a reference usage on this database where I have proprietary data. I create a schema, several views here based on that data, and then I make sure that I share that schema and those views to the application so that Sohail can access them through the app. So let me go ahead and execute this.
Which would be executed automatically if this was a click in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
Exactly
Absolutely.
right. Exactly right.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm just going to say I have a role in this account called Chairlift Provider. That's going to be a consumer. That's me. And I want to make sure that I allow install privileges to this role called Chairlift Admin, which represents Sohail. And so I am going to go ahead and run this. And here you see this word develop because that's the version that I just recently created. And then now this is some DDLs to install the application in that consumer's account. So I'll go ahead and run this. Again, this would all be taken care of for you through the marketplace if you just install an application that's there. I'm doing this for the purposes of demonstration. Great. So now that was the provider workflow. If I put on my consumer hat and I change my role here, and let's say this is Sohail. He's coming in as a Chairlift admin. If I go to apps, well, now you see the Chairlift app actually installed in the account. And so I should be able to just open this up and start running it. And so as part of this app, you'll notice that there's some first time setup that you're asked to do at the very beginning. And so here it is loading up. Basically, I'm saying that I showed here in this manifest file a few references that need to be bounded. So I need to make sure that the application knows where these tables are and that I can use this warehouse so that the application can function as intended in my account. So I'll just go ahead and do this manually and say, hey, I need to use this Chairlift warehouse for the application. And then I need to select a few tables here.
That's your data that you don't want to see the app provider to see because it's your data.
Exactly right.
100%.
Exactly
100%.
right. Exactly right. And so this is, you can imagine that this would be data that Sohail's ingested from the Chairlifts. And so this is completely 100% his data. And I'm just doing these bindings here so that the application can make sure that it can access all these objects. So sensor readings.
Yeah. And
that's the first time setup.
And key thing to note here that besides this data, the app does not have access to any other data in my account.
Yeah, exactly right. All right. Oh, right. And one more privilege is needed. So I'm going to go ahead and request that privilege. I will continue to the app. And if everything went well, it should be running. You have access as an admin to a dashboard, configuration, and sensor data. Not sure that we have time to go through everyone, but I'll show you this really neat view within the application. This is sensor data being visualized over time. Right. And so the native app that I provided to Sohail was able to make some sense of that raw sensor data that he was collecting through his chairlifts.
Now I can fix my
And then
chairlifts.
yeah, exactly, right? You made a really expensive investment, so you want to make sure you keep an eye on those
Cool.
chairlifts. Check out the repo for more information, and the quick start for more information on the dashboard and
And
configuration
Gilberto will
paths.
be really.
But I know we're at time.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go
I was
ahead.
just going to say it'll be good to just show the marketplace and show the apps, and then like how easy it is to just click on get, and you can actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, like native apps will show up in the marketplace. You will click on a native app and click get, and
Yeah,
voila,
scroll down.
it's right there in your account.
Yep. So this is where you would go to browse native apps. I think I'm zoomed in too much. So, but just like data sets, you can find native apps here.
Yeah.
One click, install it in your account, use your compute, and derive value from the data in your account.
Beautiful. And you're doing all of this in a trial account.
This is all in a trial account that I spun up, I think, a day ago, just for purposes of this. So yeah, anybody can try this out.
Spun out a trial account in Amazon because that's where the live preview is right now, and you will have the magic of being able to create apps, distribute them, bring apps inside. That's beautiful. Today we had less live questions than usual, probably because LinkedIn is doing some weird stuff today. But it's time to close the show. Any last words, Sohail, Gilberto? Thank you for that demo.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Super excited to share this with the audience. Please do play with native apps. We have extensive documentation on docs on our on a Snowflake website about how to build and monetize native apps. We also have a community forum where you can post questions and get support as you're building native apps.
Yes, come to the forums, come to Stack Overflow. I spend a lot of time on Reddit, but we also have our forums. We have these spaces. Our PMs love listening to your feedback, to your questions, and our developer advocates are ready here to be part of this. Any closing words, Gilberto?
Yes, really quickly, check out the blog post for ways for understanding native apps. And then in there, you'll see a link directly to the quick start that will guide you step by step through the demo that I showed today. So you can get hands-on time with the code and play around with it and start building more Snowflake native apps. So thank you.
Beautiful. And let me highlight this and the comment from Eric that he says, thank you. This is awesome. Can't wait to get in there and build an app. So yes, let's go build. Thank you very much. And now it's time for the bear to dance. Thanks a lot, everyone.